the ever-changing weather around the world, ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.
My apologies there, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to your Split 1 Round 11 race of the V8 Veteran, Kumho Tyres V8 Veterans from Road America. Tonight we are here for a 250 kilometre race, and I was having a quick look at the times just in qualifying there, and there are some tremendous times and laps being set out there. Just want to give a big shout out to myself. There's no one else joining me tonight. Unfortunately, our other commentators are on other commitments, so it's a bit unfortunate, but I will do my best to get through this for this evening. As mentioned, there is a 250 kilometre race tonight. Bit of stats to go into the race before we get there. Our starting fuel for this round is 60 litres with a refill capacity of 75%. I know Stephen will be in there watching, and hopefully he comes on board so he can crunch some numbers for me and work some fuel figures out. To all those in the chat, thank you for tuning in tonight. Big shout out to Glenn Corbet saying go hypersonic racing. The boys are doing a fantastic job, and they have been all season. So as the boys go out on the track now, they're about to start going on their warm-up laps. There is a 5-minute session before they will take the grid, so we are going to see a lot of cars go out on track at the moment, practicing their starts, making sure that they got all their fuel levels under control, and those line lockers. I for one have struggled definitely in the past with getting these heavy supercars off the line, making sure that the line locker even works, as I'm sure a lot of people watching will understand how that feels. Once you get these cars with 650 horsepower spinning on the line, you end up either going backwards or having a lot of issues, so it'll be an interesting one to see here. For those that are unaware, Road America is a very, very fast flowing track with a long straight coming down into turn 1, so we should be in for some good racing as we come down there for this evening. So the boys have got about a 5-minute warm up ready to go, and then we'll get the grid lineup underway. So big shout out to Steve Murray. I just gave you a shout out, bud, to make sure that you're going to be on board to do my fuel numbers tonight. I am flying solo, so I will need all the help I can get. So in saying that, guys, I will give a big shout out to our sponsors. Obviously our naming rights sponsor in Kumho Tyres. Then we've got Logitech G coming on board for this season. The Quantum Tint Solutions, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, and then obviously all the drivers and the vets. They make this series exactly what it is today. We are getting to the end of our series, so round 11 with one more round to go, I believe, next week, and that'll set up an absolute nail biter for the end of the season, and I believe that is at Brands Hatch for 55 laps. So It will be an interesting one. Brands Hatch is one of those tracks that is very, very tight and very narrow. Not a whole lot of overtaking opportunities except for in a straight line. So that will be an interesting event next week. So what I'll do is I'll get rid of that information screen and we'll watch some of these cars go around. Hopefully see some of them try and do a practice start to make sure that they can actually get these things up the line before we get into the grid and get going. We'll double ball with Dave Kirby as he comes down out of this interesting turn combination. So Road America is one of these tracks where they actually classify this straight here as 2 corners. So you've got turns 1 and 2, and then down into that straights 3 and 4, and the corner that Dave just navigated then is actually turn 5, which is a very interesting corner to try and pull a supercar up on cold tyres and a full fuel tank. All downhill braking, so I expect to see a lot of moves being done in that complex. So I just want to give a big shout out to our race control guys. Tonight in race control split 1 we have Brenton O'Brien, Michael Whiting and Peter Baxter. Michael Whiting, I believe, will be in the safety car as always, doing a stellar job. Hopefully it's not used tonight. All we can say is hopefully, but we never know. This track's always one of those ones where, especially around the kink on the back after the carousel, it can always bring a lot of cars undone very early on in the race. Steve, so the fuel usage, I had a bit of a sneak into the SSR garage before and saw some numbers off the boys, and as it appears Jason Fewens is doing a pre-race ritual of a burnout in the pit lane. I'm not sure what the stewards will think of that. So Mr. Fewens in the 067 Commodore from Banner Alliance Racing. As we will start to jump into the grid because they're all start about lining up, we will bring the grid information up now for you. So once again, I mentioned earlier I had a quick sneak peek at the times and they were blisteringly fast, with Greg Favell on the front row in the number 76 Commodore from Tyre Esports with a 204.484. Alongside Greg, another great performance from Mark Duggan from Nova Motorsports. And that rounds out our front row. In position number 3 we have Scott McCune alongside our X Series winner in Scott Gamble in that number 1 Commodore from Evolution Racing Team. Position number 5 we have Kenneth Latter, alongside him will be Michael Taliancic. Position number 7 we got Christian Smart with Matt Vanderkran from Angry Birds Racing beside. Position number 9 we got John Latham, and alongside him will be Stuart Hall in position number 10. P11 sees Jeff Thomas from JWM Motorsports alongside Tyre Esports Damien Cairns. Down in position number 13 we got Tim Nicol from Pecky's Performance Racing alongside Michael Stewart from Hypersonic Racing. Position number 15 we have Travis Hunt alongside Greg Sharp from Coda Sim Sports. P17 we got Dan Hall from Evolution Racing Team alongside Jason Spriggs in Tyre Esports Commodore. Position number 19 we've got Peter Vanderkran alongside Christopher Blanchard. Behind that we have Chad Vigor in position number 21 with Chad Lewis on position number 22 beside him. Down in P23 we've got Stephen Kennedy and Anthony Vismar in position number 24. Moving on further back we've got David Kirby in the 307 Commodore, Fishy Motorsports Commodore, and alongside him will be Michael Schroeder from Old Mate and Sons. Position number 27 we've got Darren Crosby from M1 Racing, alongside will be Adam Simpson, another Fishy Motorsports car. Position number 29 we've got Rick Viger, and then alongside Rick will be Marty Hansen from Tyre Esports in that 126 Commodore. Position number 31 we have Dean Flavell, and then beside him will be Troy Sipple from Pecky's Performance Racing. P33 we have Darren Goosey from Old Mate and Sons. And then down in position number 36 we have Jason Fewens. I'm not sure whether he didn't set a time or what's happening there. And down the back of the grid we have Michael Quain from Old Mate and Sons in the 57 Mustang. So that rounds out your grid for the evening as we start to see the cars all starting to line up, and hopefully I can grab a nice shot of this, of them all coming down the main straight. So these guys will be getting anxious, getting nervous, ready to go for 39 laps, I believe, of Road America. I hope you guys are strapped in, ready to go. I think tonight's going to produce some absolutely fantastic racing. So very shortly we should start to hear the revs rise, as we do start to see that now, and we'll get to see who jumps away nice and clean off the start. As we're away, it appears though all cars from the front have moved away nice and start, with Greg Favell and Mark Duggan getting a blistering start off there. Looks like we major contact in the back with number 14, so I'm not really sure what's happened there, and that is a huge incident which we will have to go back and have a look at. So unfortunately that has caused a track blockage, so I have a feeling we're going to see the safety car nice and early here, unless these cars can't get themselves all straightened up and sorted out. That is very unfortunate for two Type N esports cars, and looks like it appears to be David Kirby's also mixed up in that that early on incident as well. So all cars seem to be going and moving on. We'll come back and have a look at that as we see some big movers and shakers coming through down in the back here with that critical turn 5 that I mentioned earlier, where there's going to be a lot of moves under brakes, and especially early on with these cars, they can get very twitchy in the rear, as we've seen quite a few cars all change positions here in the first lap. So there's quite a few cars that have up 2 positions and have gained some spots here, so very unfortunate to see from the guys early on, and we will go back and have a look at that, but we'll get the first lap out of the way and we'll see how everything ends up. So at this stage, does it appear to see that we do not have a safety car on track, but if that changes I will let you guys know. So jumping back through the field, Jason Fewens, as mentioned before, one of the boys mentioned that he started at the rear of the grid, and I think he started down in, what is that, 36th position there. He's actually up 12 positions, so I think Jason's been one of the big winners from that accident from the start of the race, and we'll have to keep an eye on him and see how he goes. He does appear to be carrying some damage on that front of that Commodore by the looks of it, so he's done very well to avoid that early on incident and come with a clean car. So some unfortunate big losers in this race have been Jason Spriggs in that Type N esports Commodore, and it looks like I think that's Anthony Vismar pushing one of the other Fords along here. So it appears though Chad Viger has blown an engine, which is very unfortunate. That does also see our first safety car of the evening come out on track. So Michael Whiting driving that wonderful Quantum Tint Solutions safety car there. Do apologise guys that it was a very, very fast and furious first lap. There are a lot of cars diving in the pit lane, which I'll endeavour to bring up in a second. But what we might do is we might try and jump back on board and see what actually happened off the start with that major incident. So using the Kumho Tyres replay, we'll try and grab that, see what's happened from the start here. Oh, that's very unfortunate. So it looks like one of the Type N esports cars may have either netcoded together, or the cars in iRacing tend to suck together, which unfortunately caused one of the cars to turn around the nose of another vehicle and cause that incident. So we will try and jump back on board and see what's happened with that in a second. As it appears though my system has started to play up, so I'll try and grab the car that was actually involved in that, and I think that was Jason Spriggs that had a bit of an incident there, so I'll try and grab that and we'll try and get it from a better camera angle. We might try and get that from a chopper view, so let's have a look and see if we can pick that up. So unfortunately that has we'll go back a little bit and see what's actually happened here. So, that's very unfortunate. It appears as though Damien Cairns has had a very slow start to this race, and as Jason Spriggs was coming past Damien there, it appears as though he's unfortunately made contact across the nose, which has then caused a multiple car pile-up, which has brought out our safety car out for this evening. So feel free, guys, to jump in the chat, give me a hand, talk to me. As I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, I am doing this on my own tonight. We do not have Nathan with us. He's unfortunately away on other commitments, and we could not get any of the other boys to jump in, obviously because they're all racing. So, well, I'll catch up on some comments now that have been made. So Steve Murray says the first critical lap is lap 8, and then you can get home with 2 full tanks. 12 laps on first tank and 16 laps on a 75% refill. So I do appreciate that, Steve. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have my hands busy tonight and not be able to get my stats, and I haven't got Nath here to jump into any pit lane and jump on Larko's board to get any information out. So I do appreciate that. So just once again, big shout out to our sponsor of Quantum Tint Solutions, providing us with this beautiful Porsche 911 as a safety car. I think I put the commentator's curse on it nice and early, saying that I didn't think we were going to see a safety car, but you never know with these races. These boys race at 110% all the time, and unfortunately it just took one car to get a bit of a slow jump, and that has caused a multi-car accident on the main straight. So, looking at your stats there, Steve, I might bring up some of our pit lane strategies here. Now, if I jump down towards Damien Cairns and we come down towards the back, I'll just grab that up for a second and see if it re-evaluates. Nope, it's not going to, so let's go down to 15, and there's all the cars that have completed their first pit stop. So you've got Cairns, Lewis, Kennedy, Visma, Kirby, Blanchard have all done one of their pit stops for the evening, and whether that's due to causing some damage or whether that's due to them trying to just keep topping the tank up if they can, they might not be in the best position, they just keep topping the tank up. That is also a very viable strategy around this place, especially if you're towards the back of the field. I know I've done it, and a couple of my teammates have done it as well, where they have managed to keep jumping in, getting fuel tyres, still bringing it onto the back of the train, and it almost alleviates that entire last stop if they can fuel save a little bit. So we'll have to see how these boys that have taken their stop play this one out. As we jump back up the front with all the guys now, single file. So this is the actual kink I was mentioning earlier. This is where I thought the accident was going to be. Very high speed corner, and what tends to happen in that area is the cars will push on quite a bit, and there's usually all sorts of incidents through there, cars sliding off. So thankfully we've managed to get back into a single file configuration, and hopefully we get this race underway a little bit smoother this time round. So as we can see, the safety car has pulled away from the field here, and we are just about ready to go back live racing with Greg Favell in control of this race. So interesting time for Greg here. So long straight, wants to try and break as much draft as he can. So this will be absolutely crucial for Greg to get a good jump, which it appears as though he has managed to go early and try and cause a few issues for the cars behind, but he does have a very hard charging Mark Duggan right up his tail, And round road America, long straights, lots of drafting opportunities, can make up a lot of time in a straight line around here. So we'll just start moving my way back through the field to see if there's any sort of other movers or shakers happening here. It appears as though everyone seems to have managed to get through on this lap, which is fantastic to see. So jump on board with Michael Quain, running that 57 Mustang from Pagnian sponsored Mustang there. Obviously this is the alternate livery to the Old Mate and Sons. Michael's actually up 14 positions, so another one of those cars that has had a great start there. As Marty Hansen looks to put a move down the inside on, I believe, Darren Goosey. Down into that turn 5 area where I mentioned earlier is going to be one of those hot corners to try and get a move done. Big braking zone with a lot of runoff on the outside, so you can afford to get out there and hip and shoulder a little bit. Moving back a bit further, we've got Michael Schroeder, followed by Damien Cairns in that beautifully repaired Type N Esports Commodore. Very unfortunate to see Damien in that first lap incident there, but his pit crew's done a phenomenal job to repair that Commodore and get it back on track. So we jump back up the front here. Greg Faville has now managed to pull away about 8/10 on Mark Duggan, and we do know very well Greg is incredible when he's leading from the front. He just chips away and continues to push and push and push. So I've had many a times talking to Greg, and I know he does not feel safe at all. So he'll be going absolute hammer and tong here in this race. Moving on back, we've got Mark Duggan having an absolute stellar performance here. I know it's only 5 laps in, but anytime you see these boys at the front, they're always willing to have a hard battle. Scotty McCune, once again, having a beautiful run up here in P3 at the moment. Tucked in right behind Mark Duggan, but has a very, very hard charging Kenneth Ladder behind him in P4. And I know Ken will want to be starting to push forward and try and get back onto those guys at the front, not wanting to let them go. So big shout out to Scott, up in position number 3 for this portion of the race. So just looking at some lap times here, also we've had Greg Favelle has set almost an equivalent lap time of a 2:04.8 to a lot of these guys were doing in their qualifying. So it just goes to show the pace he has out in front with those fresh tyres, no one pressuring him from behind, head down and driving on. As it appears there's been another major accident in the back of the field, which I will try and grab hold of in a second, and we'll see what's happened down here. So it looks like down into turn 5 there's been an incident involving Troy Sipple, Jason Spriggs and Rick Viger, which we might jump on board, and there appears to be a car with engine issues there at the moment. Hopefully that's not the case, and these boys can race on and keep going, but we'll try and get back and have a look at the replay and see what's actually happened to the boys down there in turn 5. So using the Kumho Tyres replay, we'll jump on board with Troy Sipple. We're coming down to that turn 5 complex. The boys are tussling nice and tightly up in front there. Oh, unfortunately that's one of those things that can happen there. I think that was Troy, whether that was a little bit of net code involved or what's actually happened there. That's very unfortunate for Troy. So thankfully there was not as much damage done to his car and he was alright to continue. So Steve, earliest refuel to get home is lap 24. Well, that's fantastic to know. We'll keep an eye on that actually. I'm going to write that down now on a bit of paper that I have in front of me. For lap 24, as we see number 16 and Chad Viger, and I believe that is Michael Quain, having a big battle here as they come down into turn 1. It does appear Chad is a lap down, so he has yielded that position to Michael to allow Michael to push on. Moving back up to the front of the field, as mentioned before, Greg has now capitalised on that early lap pace and pushed his lead out to almost 1.2 seconds. Now, from memory, I know in these supercars, 1.3 to 1.4 seconds thereabouts is just enough to get you outside the draft of these cars. So he is doing a fantastic job at the front, pushing away in that Taipan Esports Commodore. So I'm not sure what they've got under the hood of that thing, but we might have to get something checked there at some point. I might have to reach out to the team owner or team manager in Ben Anthony and get that car scrutinised, because that thing is looking very, very quick. Moving further back, we've got Mark Duggan, who has managed to get a little bit of gap to Scott McCune now, so the pressure's not quite on Scott as much. Sorry, on as Mark as much, but Scott McCune up in P3 is about to come under tremendous pressure from the very, very fast charging races of Kenneth Latta, Scott Gamble and Michael Taliancic. Once again, with Greg pushing that gap out, these boys are going to want to push hard and try and make a move to get past and start chasing, as Kenneth just appears to show the nose to Scott, trying to put him off, getting his mirrors, become a pest to him. I know that's a big plan of Kenneth there, being a teammate of Ken. He's very, very good at sitting in that blind spot and trying to force a mistake. As I jump on further back through the field, there appears to be a few more cars that are having a few issues back in the rest of the field, so I will jump back, as it appears though one of the ERT Commodores is that old Chad Lewis in the 727 Evolution Racing Team Commodore, the soldier on the livery there, has had a bit of an incident coming into turn 1, so we might have to go back and have a look and see what's actually happened with Chad there. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I had to go and unfortunately had something in the back of my throat, so we'll jump on board with Chad and see if we can see what's actually happened with him getting turn 1. Oh, that's major impact there with that tyre wall from Chad. Unfortunately, it looks like he's just got a little bit loose on the exit there, as these cars do, with the undulation of the ripple strip and the road here at Road America. Has just caught that ripple strip, and unfortunately the car has continued to loop around and has sent him into that tyre wall. Hopefully Chad manages to get back to pit lane in that car and potentially take advantage of one of those fast repairs that the series managers allow for this race, and he can get back out there and try and recover some positions. So we jump out into this battle pack here at the top of the list. It does appear that Kenneth Latta has made a move on Scott McCune. And once again now Scott's immediately under pressure from Scott Gamble in that number 1 Evolution Racing Team Commodore, with Michael Taliancic, Christian Smart and I believe John Latham all hard charging behind that. So it'd be interesting to see if Kenneth starts to pull away and try and start to catch Mark Duggan and Greg Favell, who have now driven out to a commanding lead. So there's about 2 seconds between Kenneth and Mark Duggan, and there's a further second up the road to Greg. So it does appear Mark is slowly drawing Greg back in here. So these boys will be pushing these cars to the absolute limit, as we just see John Latham there drop a rear right-hand wheel in the grass over that ripple strip. We'll jump a bit further down to Darren Crosby in one of the M1 Esports Mustangs with a bit of damage on the left-hand side of that car. Hopefully that's not going to affect him too much. Doesn't appear to be, but Darren's one of the other cars that had big win here. He's up 10 positions from his starting spot, so started down in 27th and is now up into position number 17 and doing a fantastic job. Behind him we have Peter Vanderkraan running for... I'll have to have a look and see what livery that is, but I believe that's one of the liveries from the boys that race with Chad Viger and Rick Viger there. So Pete doing a fantastic job. Always manages to save fuel, so we'll have to keep an eye on him, because I don't know how he does it. He manages to have a drop tank or an extended fuel tank or something in his car that just keeps that thing moving and pushing on. Another one of the big movers from the early on incident is Dean Flavelle in what appears to be the streamlined version of the Mustang, the 880 Mustang there from, I think it's Dino Esports, I believe. Missing that rear wing of that Mustang, so I hope that's not affecting him too much, but iRacing physics when it comes to having a rear wing on these cars is questionable at best, but hopefully we get some changes in that space and they begin to add some downforce changes if you do happen to lose the boot, because these cars would be an absolute handful without that rear wing, to say the least. Behind there in P20 is Marty Hansen, who's actually come up 10 positions from his starting position, so doing a fantastic job to miss that early on accident with that car looking absolutely in pristine condition, and hopefully Marty can start to push forward and capitalise on having that clean car and battle on. Now for the Banner Alliance boys, here's Mr. Jason Fewens in the 067 Commodore. Jason's actually up 13 positions from his starting spot, and I do apologise, I thought there was some damage on the front of his car earlier, but I believe that's just the livery and the way it looks. Come on guys, putting black guards on the car, very, very hard to see, but Jason's doing a great job there, especially after doing his pre-race ritual, doing some circle work in the pit lane. I'm not sure what race control will have to say about that, but look, he's doing a fantastic job, up 13 positions from the rear of the grid. As we jump back on board at the front here, and it does appear that Scott Gamble has lost quite a bit of position here. So Scott was battling hard with these boys, and I know he was right behind Scott McCune in P5 with Michael Taliancic, and Scott has now disappeared down to position number 8, so he has lost 4 positions. So I will grab the Kumho Tyres replay and see if we can see what's happened to Scott to cause him to lose the positions. So it looks like Scott's come down into turn 2 and unfortunately locked the front right, and once you lock a wheel on these cars, these are incredibly hard to re-pick up, and that has unfortunately cost Scott 4 positions of this race. And knowing him, he'll be very upset with himself, and hopefully he can cool those tyres down, manage to push on and gain some of those places back. As we come back to light positions now, that has allowed Ken Lader to gain a little bit of space over Scott McCune, get a little bit of breathing room, but that has now brought Michael Taliancic in right behind the Hypersonic Racing Commodore of Scott McCune there. And as we know, Michael is a very, very hard racer, very, very fast racer, tough competitor, and he will want that position to try and push on forward, because it does appear that the boys in front, so Mike Duggan has managed to reel Greg Favell back in here. So the gap was over out to 1.3 seconds, and now it's down to about 8 tenths. So Mark's doing an incredible job here, chasing down Greg. As we know, Greg will be pushing on very, very hard in this race, and Mark's doing a stellar job in that Nova Motorsports Mustang. I'll jump down back as all these cars begin to come in on lap 10, so I do want to have a look and see if another safety car has been called at this point, but I don't think so, as there is another safety car out in track, so that is very unfortunate we'll have to go and have a look and see what's actually happened to cause that safety car, but pit lane has just become a very, very busy place. As we take a look back down, pit lane there, as you can see, pretty much all our entire field has now made their pit stop, which is incredible, except for Greg Sharp and David Kirby, who have managed to go around and are going to go and form up behind the safety car. So we'll be interested to see how those two gentlemen play this out, but just looking at my timing on my screen here, every car just about is in pit lane. So I guess, Steve, you're right now, all cars can make it home on 2 stops, so that's going to shake things up massively, because now it's turned into a 2-stop sprint race from here on out. Anything of fuel strategy has gone out the window, as that is absolute chaos trying to, with all these cars coming out of pit lane. It's just a stream of them. So it looks like all the boys have managed to make it out nice and safely in positions. No one's fighting for position here, as the 263 Mustang comes past and will join the back of that group of cars. Moving back up to the front, we have Greg Sharp and David Kirby. So these two gentlemen are essentially positions 1 and 2 of this race at this stage, with, it appears though, the 014 of Rick Viger stuck in the middle. So while we are running around on the safety car, what I might try and do is I will try and find what's actually happened to spark this safety car. Just bear with me for a second to see if I can find what's actually happened. So using the Kumho Tyres replay, we'll jump on board. It appears though Steve Kennedy has had a bit of an incident coming down into turn 1. So it appears as though Steve's just managed to catch that rear of that grass, and whether that was the grass or whether that is an engine pop, we might go back and have a look at that replay, but we might jump on board and see if we can catch what's actually happened with Steve there, because it does appear that he has pulled that car over to the side and has now decided to park it for the evening. So what we might try and do is we'll try and jump on board with him and see what's actually happened. As he's coming down to turn 1 on that limiter. Yeah, there it is. We've just heard on the downshift from 6th gear to 5th gear that that engine has unfortunately given away, and Steve will be absolutely devastated with that. He is a very, very good racer, very fair, so no one likes to see it, but unfortunately that is iRacing, and these cars do tend to have that effect when you try and downshift them too quickly. Welcome, Halil. Thank you for tuning in, mate. I appreciate it. Hope the coverage is alright for you guys. We are currently in our second safety car for this evening. These boys have been racing incredibly hard for the first 12 laps of this race. So I will throw the question out to you. When are you joining us back in Vets? When will we see you bringing that TSM Esports Mustang back out on track? As looking at our timing at the moment, Dave Kirby is currently the effective race leader at the moment, but he did pit on lap 2 with all these other cars behind him pitting on lap 10. So I'm quite interested to see what Dave Kirby's strategy is here and how that one's going to play out. But the 014 there of Rick Viger appears to be quite a few laps down, and they're holding in between the safety car and the leader of this race, as they, I will take that back, they've just let Rick Viger go around the safety car. So we do have a wave around rule in this race with the any cars that are a lap down will get to pass a safety car when race control deem it safe to do so, and it allows them to try and get back onto the lead lap. Rick is quite a few laps down, so the reason Rick would have been let pass then is because he was actually between the race leaders and the safety car, which in turn could cause more incidents, as he will be receiving blue flags and will have to adhere to them with these faster guys behind. So just want to shout out Halil, got a new job, find out more. That's great to hear, mate. Good to see that Cooler Master Mustang back out on track. Hopefully you don't have any sound issues like you did in the last race I think you attended last season. I think that was at Monza, I believe, where you were trying to do the rest of the race with no sound and relying purely on LED instruments on your dash. So definitely look forward to seeing that car back out on track. Suzuka, my apologies. I know it was one of them. I think I saw the Monza one where you had the similar sort of issue. But it will be fantastic to see you back out on track in that Cooler Master Mustang. As we go under safety car here, the safety car has now pulled away, but Dave Kirby a minute ago was actually saving fuel. I'm not sure whether the guys out in chat saw that rear flasher come on. That usually is an indication to tell you that the car has been turned off. So Dave, I'm not sure what strategy Dave's going with here, when he's going to pit or what's going to happen, or is he hoping for another safety car very, very shortly to try and get that pit stop done. But we are now about to go green again as I get rid of the safety car scene there, and this race becomes live again. So a bit like Greg before, I wonder when Dave is going to jump. If it was my choice, I'd be starting to jump now as he come out of the pit lane, out of the straight. But it looks like he's going to check everyone up, and we have seen this strategy used before. Check everyone up as you come up the hill, and then just as the cars are still coming up the hill and you're at the crest, that's when you gun it, so that no car behind you can get an advantage of a run on behind you. So Dave has now jumped. So he has used that strategy to get the advantage, and there has been a major accident behind, which I don't want to say it, but I believe that might have been Scott Gamble in the ERT Commodore, which it is. That number 1 Commodore there has once again been involved in another incident. The first one of his own doing, but this one definitely was not of his own doing. I think this is just a lot of cars in the wrong area. As we I will just try and get rid of this we'll get rid of that, and that's very unfortunate. My apologies about those in the chat there. So what we're going to do is we will go back and use the replay to try and catch what's happened on that start finish line there of Scott Gamble and a few other boys. So bear with me, guys, as I try and manipulate what's actually happened with those cars there. Okay, so that's not quite far enough back where I needed to be, but I will try and grab the right view here. Unfortunately, that's too far back, so I will go back live and I will try and catch that up. I'll bring up another replay in a minute and we'll see how we go. Hopefully Scott can limp that car around and potentially use a fast repair at the next stop if that speed is not affecting him too much, and he can manage to get back and start clawing positions back. As Greg Favell is our race leader, and it looks like he has ran wide there, so I'm not entirely sure whether they've called another safety car or whether Greg's just had a bit of a moment. at that point, or if we are trying to get a safety car out onto track. So there's our safety car currently sitting on the track, positioned round in, I believe that is directly out of pit lane. With these boys now coming around, they'll be coming around as fast as they possibly can to catch up, because it does appear that a lot of the cars in the field have taken another chance to go into pit lane, including Scott Gamble, who has, I believe, now used his fast repair. Yeah, that's what I thought as well, Steve. So maybe he was carrying some extra damage, and he has used his he has come into pit lane and used his fast repair now, as you can see by the car. Does look incredibly clean, but interesting that the car is still stationary there and has not moved. So I'm not sure whether Scott's going to continue this race at this point in time, or whether he has retired for this evening, but we will check in a bit later on and have a look and see what's going on there. As we get back to the front of the field with Greg Pavel with a commanding lead of almost 2.5 seconds, which is going to all go to waste in a minute once the safety car picks up Greg. Very unfortunate for the 76 Commodore tonight. He's had 2 absolute stellar runs, and both times has been involved and been held up by a safety car. So that will see Greg catch up to the Quantum Tint Solution safety car in just about 15 seconds or so. Steve, yeah, so that was a different car. That was Chad Lewis. So it wasn't Evolution Racing Team Commodore, but that was, I believe, was Chad Lewis with the major damage earlier from when he had an incident coming into Turn 1, clipped the ripple strip on the exit of Turn 1, and unfortunately made contact with the tyre wall quite heavily there. So while we're going around a safety car, I will try and bring up that other incident that has happened with Scott there, and I'll see if we can nab that properly, and bear with me. No, Steve, Scott is not running the Logitech livery, so what Evolution Racing Team have done is they have made up an alternate livery for Soldier On. They are running this alternate livery at the moment, which is supporting a fantastic charity, I believe it is, for returned servicemen and women in Australia. It helps them out with their recovery and any ailments they may have had from obviously serving for Australia. Absolutely fantastic cause. As you can see, this livery does look fantastic. It's very, very clean, and very much to the point. So as far as I'm aware, all the Evolution Racing Team guys are racing this particular livery on their car for the remainder of the season. As I have now got the replay up, so what I'll do is I will move back up to the boys at the front and grab that replay real quick of what's actually happened to Scott on the start-finish line. And it looks like a lot of the cars have checked up, so give me I will bring that up now for you. So Scott, unfortunately, he's been here with a whole bunch of cars. Green flag has been called, and looks like contact was unfortunately made with, I believe that is Christian Smart in the 999 SSR Commodore there, and that has just had an absolute flow-on effect of all the cars behind. Very, very unfortunate there, but as we love to say, safety cars do breed safety cars, unfortunately. So very unfortunate. but these boys will learn to live to race on, and hopefully Scott can put his head down now with that fresh car and make some positions up. He's currently down in position number 28, so we'll have to see what the race stewards think of that early on incident there between Christian Smart and Scott on that restart. I think there was just no racing room, and these cars love to make contact, unfortunately, but these boys will battle on, and hopefully they're good to keep going from here. I think this is our third safety car for the evening. Michael Whiting's doing a fantastic job in that Quantum Tint Solutions 911. He's keeping that car nice and straight, so hopefully we don't have to use it much more for this evening, and these boys can all go under green flags from here on out. We are 16 laps into this race, so not quite halfway yet, but we are getting close. So what I might do is I might just take a quick break to get a drink, and then I will be back very shortly with you.
The ever-changing weather around the world. Ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.
Welcome back. I do apologise, I might be taking a few of those throughout this race, as my voice is not feeling the best for this, but we will battle on through and see how we go. As I do believe the safety car will be coming in this lap, and it looks like Greg's being sneaky there and trying to sit right on the back of that safety car and saving as much fuel as possible. So we jump on board in his cockpit view here, and we'll just try and see what he's doing, whether he's clutching or... So it does appear that he is accelerating and trying to sit right on the tail of that safety car. Now, if this is an iRacing safety car, you can actually sit inside the iRacing safety car, but when it comes to our live safety car driven by Michael Whiting, hopefully there's no contact, maybe because the contact will be live and damage will be caused. As we do see Michael Whiting pull away in that safety car, and I might try and jump on a blimp camera here, or a camera that is quite far away for this particular restart. Just trying to find what a good camera will be for this particular restart. And once again, this is another one of those sort of hairy one where does Greg start to accelerate, and it appears as though he has jumped early, so I think he might have caught a couple of cars off guard here, especially David Kirby behind him, or even Mark Duggan. These guys have managed to jump away to nearly 8/10 a gap over each other, so I don't believe these boys are in the same channels talking here, but that is actually an incredible start, incredible jump for these guys to get away as quickly as they have. As you see, all the cars coming down to turn 1 again. Once again with nil to minor incidents this time around, so hopefully we can stay green for a little while and keep battling on. But these boys at the front have managed to get quite a big gap on this restart, and these guys will be looking to capitalise on that and try and pull away, but Dave Kirby still has not made a pit stop yet from lap 2. So I think Dave's trying to push the car as far as actually possible to go with these tyres, and we'll have to see what's actually happened and how he's managing to save all this fuel. as I do. Yeah, I just had a look at that, Halil. I believe that was Anthony Visma in the Type N Esports Commodore, so I'll try and bring that up. We'll have a look at the replay and see if that was Mr. Visma. Oh, that's not the best camera, is it? So there it appears that his car has had a major problem on that restart, and what I will try and do is I'll try and grab that up again to see what's actually happened with Anthony there, and he is missing quite a few panels on the front of that car, and we will have a look. As we come back towards the front of the field here, once again Greg Pavel has managed to start to push that gap out now, so he has a 1.2 second lead over Dave Kirby, who still hasn't pitted yet. I might have to have a chat to the Fishy Boys about what fuel they're running or what Dave's doing in that car at the moment, because he's doing an incredible job to manage to stay out there so for this many laps. But I believe he had a 75% refuel, so he still has quite a few laps in this yet. And if Steve's still in the chat, I'll get you to work out the when you think he's going to actually have to make a pit stop. As we welcome Ben Anthony to the chat for this evening. So unfortunately, looking back through my timing, it didn't actually catch what happened to Anthony there. He was involved in the major accident on the restart, and then I'm not exactly sure what has happened again for the second time, so be very interested to see. So yes, he did stop on lap 2. Okay, so what's actually happened to Anthony is I think Anthony was trying to avoid an incident or the safety car being parked up between turns 1 and 2 on the track, and he's ended up driving straight off the track and into the wall. So I know he won't want me to show this, but we will jump on board and show his mishap as he has come out of pit lane and unfortunately made contact with that wall. So I will try and get this up. As you can see, Anthony Visma coming out of pit lane, has come around turn 1, sees a safety car on the right hand side, and then unfortunately, I don't know what's happened there, he's just driven off the track and into the concrete wall. So that's very unfortunate to Anthony there in that Commodore. I think it's number 8, I believe. Number 6, Type N Esports Commodore. So Ben, you might have a bit of a repair bill coming your way because of that little one there. To answer your other question there, Ben, I think Christian was potentially getting a drive-through penalty for the restart contact with Scott Gamble that has unfortunately seen, I believe, the retirement of Christian Smart out of this race for the evening. So that's very unfortunate for Christian. Also, he had an incident at turn 5. Alright, I will endeavour to do my best to see what's actually happened with Christian there, as these boys are managing to battle on nice and close here with Mark Duggan now back in P3. Kenneth Latta is battling awfully hard behind him and looks like he's going to try and make a move after the King down into, I believe it's what they call Canada Corner. Another corner that is very, very tricky to get right, because you're coming down this straight at a very, very high rate of speed, and you're trying to aim these cars up as straight as possible for that braking zone. So I will try and find out what's happened to Christian Smart. Please bear with me, guys. positions once again. These boys at the front are battling awfully hard, with Kenneth Latta trying to make a move on Mark Duggan here. So these boys are pushing incredibly hard with Dave Kirby out in front. So Steve reckons around lap 23 to 24. Not sure how much fuel he saved on the safety car. If he can get to lap 24, he can get home with a full tank. So we'll be interested to see what Dave's plan is for this one, and whether he has enough fuel to get home here, because he's now changed to an alternate strategy, and it could be very much one that does happen to pay off here for him. Once again, that SSR Mustang of Kenneth Latta putting an awful lot of pressure onto the back of Mark Duggan, who's doing an absolute amazing job there, managing to hold him off while these boys are pushing incredibly hard behind. We'll get stuck on back through the field. Down in P5 we have Scott McCune, who has lost 2 positions from his starting place, but it's absolutely fantastic to see the Hypersonic Racing Commodore number 77 up into position number 5 for this race, and hopefully he can continue to push on and get a great result for the boys over there. Moving back further, we've got Michael Taliancic in position number 6. Behind him in that beautiful livery, the racecraft livery there, of John Latham. Moving a bit further back, we've got the 2 JWM Esports Mustangs of Jeff Thomas and Travis Hunt. Be interested to see what the team orders are on this particular incident, whether they're going to race hard or whether they are going to try and rub some panels here and some doors. We'll have to see how that one plays a bit further. Moving further back, we've got Michael Stewart in the 919 Hypersonic Racing Ford Mustang, in that livery for Bin the Bay Blade for Balin. I apologise for that bit of a tongue twister there. Another one of those incredible causes that the veterans have got massively behind Michael Stewart in that with that cause. It appears like Mark Duggan is currently off the track there. So that is incredibly unfortunate for Mark. We might have to jump on board and see what's actually happened with Mark there, coming down into, I believe, turn number 1, or was it turn 2? So looks like this car's battling 3 wide down into turn 1. Mark's on the outside, and that is incredibly unfortunate for Mark. Looks like he's just done that all to himself, and he's just overdriven the car and has then made a mess of the rejoin, unfortunately. So Mark will be absolutely spewing, because he was having a fantastic race up until that point. So we jump back on Stewie, Michael Stewart, who is managing to hold off a very, very fast-paced Damien Cairns there in the 88 Commodore, who was caught up earlier in that incident on the start line. So Damien's doing a great job to be up in position number 10 at the moment, and is about to be right underneath that rear wing of that HSR Mustang. Moving further back into position number 11, we have one of the M1 Esports Mustangs of Darren Crosby, who is up 16 positions from his starting spot. So that's an incredible move for Darren, given all the safety cars and everything that's been going on in this race. Behind him, down in position number 12, is Mark Duggan, recovering after that incident around in turn 1. So, as I mentioned before, he will be absolutely kicking himself. Mark is an incredibly fast racer, very, very fair racer, so he will be most notably upset with himself for making that mistake into turn 1. Behind Mark, down in P13, we have Peter Vanderkraan doing a good job, up 6 positions, with Taipei Esports Marty Hansen right behind him, who hopefully is going to start putting some pressure on him and potentially get past him and start trying to make his way forward. These guys are on a bit of a pit different. These guys are on the same pit strategy of all these cars that pitted on lap 10, so they're going to have roughly the same amount of fuel, same amount of tyre wear. It'll be interesting to see who can make the most of it from this part out. Down in position number 15, we have Michael Schroeder from Olmate and Sons, who has Dean Flavel right behind him. So there does seem to be a bit of a gap between Michael Schroeder and Marty Hansen at the moment, with Michael about to come under an incredible amount of pressure from a lot of these cars right behind him. Dean Flavelle down in position number 16. He's actually come up 15 positions from his starting slot in the 880 Dino Esports Ford Mustang. Right behind that we have Dan Hall in the Evolution Racing Team's Ford Mustang, who I think he's unfortunately got his paint a little bit mixed up here, and it looks like he's got the spec map from another livery showing over the top of the Soldier on paint. I think that was the better electrical, the livery that he was running for the retro round. So we might have to send him a quick message and a chat to him about that, get him to fix that livery up for us and get it nice and clean for next week. Behind Dan, down in position number 18, we have Darren Goosey in the Old Mate Sons 186 Commodore, and it does appear to be that there is a Type N Esports Commodore in between here at the moment, so be interested to see what happens here with these cars, because I believe that that Type N Esports car will be receiving blue flags and will not want to give that position up because he wants to keep moving forward, but may have to yield here if Goosey gets a good run. Behind that in position number 19 is our season 12 championship winner in Scott Gamble in the ERT Commodore number 1. Is managing to push on and do as much as he can to claw us back as many positions as he can after having that incident on the safety car restart with, I believe, Christian Smart in the 999 SSR Commodore. Behind that in position number 18 we have Tim Nicol in the 23 Pecky's Performance Racing Commodore there. Another one of these quiet achievers that puts in a lot of work and gets in a lot of good results. So hopefully Tim can start pushing his way forward. I think he might have been involved in a couple of little minor incidents which sees him down 5 positions from his starting spot. Behind him is another Evolution Racing Team Commodore of Chad Lewis. He's going for that no bonnet aero package on that Commodore. Great for ventilation and cooling, but not so good for aero. Hopefully it doesn't affect him too much. Chad's having a good run here. He's up 3 positions from his starting spot and currently about to find some pressure being applied by Chad Viger behind in P number 20. So it does appear that Chad has had his boot replaced. Last time I was watching his car, he did have no rear wing and no boot. So it does appear that his pit crew have done a fantastic job at repairing that Mustang in the pit stop there. And hopefully he can put some pressure on a very, very wide Chad Lewis just ahead of him there. As mentioned earlier, coming through the kink there, very, very high speed, cars shifting weight. All it takes is for the thing to push a little bit wide and you're just a passenger at that point. Moving down, we have the 747 Commodore of Greg Sharp, running that beautiful Penrite livery up there on the screen as you can see him. Absolutely fantastic looking car, always has been. Behind that we have Jason Fewens down in position number 22. Well, actually down in position number 20, climbing 19. So this is now that critical lap that Stephen Murray mentioned earlier. Lap 24, all these cars can be getting to pit, and this will put them back onto the correct cycle with a full tank of fuel and a set of tyres. These cars can actually get home from this position. So behind that is Troy Sipple, who's now moved up a few positions because we have currently 6 cars in the pit lane, all doing their last stop for the race to the home. Moving back a bit further, we've got Christopher Blanchard, one of the WKMP Sim Sports Commodores. Beautiful looking livery on this one, running that spec map, so we do have the metallic green on this car this week. I think Chris there for a couple of weeks was not running the spec map, so it was looking like a matte green, as I've just cursed him. And he has locked a front left and driven off the track a little bit down into turn 5 there, which has cost him some time. So moving back further down, we've got Matt Vanderkraan down in position number 28, chasing, I believe that is one of the Pecky's Performance Racing cars in front, and then Michael Quain in front of that. So right now, these cars down towards the end are either a lap down, or they're currently off the different strategy at the moment, with Jason Spriggs down in position number 29 after being caught up in those earlier incidents on the start-finish straight after the safety car restart, and also on lap 1. Anthony Visma in that very, very hurt Tyre Esports number 6 Commodore. I believe he used his fast repair early on, so he's just going to try and limp that car home and try and get as many championship points as he can for this race. Moving further on down, we've got Rick Viger down in position number 31. And then we've got the Adam Simpson, who I believe has retired his car for this race from Fishy Motorsports, with Christian Smart, Stuart Hall and Stephen Kennedy all retiring their vehicles at this point in time. So what I will do is I'll try and get the replay up on what actually has happened to Christian Smart now that I've gone through the field, and we will see how we go and see what I can pull up. So just having a look at the replay, my replay is actually cutting out at the moment, but it appears though Christian has had a moment coming down into turn 5. The car has had a rear end lock by the looks of it, which has caused Christian to run wide and unfortunately make contact with the tyre wall at that point down into that very tricky downhill section, the downhill braking area. So that's very unfortunate for Christian. I will have to see what has happened after that. It appears though his car has managed to go through the fence and ended up back in pit lane. One of those iRacing unfortunate incidents there. So that's incredibly unfortunate for Christian. But our race control will review that and look into it. As we move back onto Greg Ravel here, who has got a 5-second lead over Kenneth Ladder at the front of this race, and these guys have not made their second pit stop yet, so it'll be interesting to see. So of the top 8 cars have all not made their second pit stop. The first car that has made their pit stop that could potentially make it home to the end is John Latham in the 24 Racecraft Simulations Commodore, currently in position 15. So if I bring up the track map here, we'll try and get that on board and give you an idea of where Greg Favell is currently. And then John Latham is on track. So John Latham's about to cross the start-finish line, and Greg Favell is about to come down in towards the carousel complex. So it'll be very interesting to see how these boys all play this out now, because effectively you've got John Latham, Damien Cairns, Mark Duggan, Jeff Thomas, all with enough fuel and tyres to get home. They're all battling it out quite close down here in position number 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17 at this point in time. So these guys at the front of the race will have to actually stop for fuel shortly and tyres if they do want to make it home towards the end of this race. So at this point it'd be interesting to see at what time and what time do these cars actually make that jump to complete the last pit stop for this race, as we are getting towards the last 10 laps, so there's about 13 laps to go. We have been under green flag conditions for quite some time now. So after the multiple safety cars earlier on, we have seemed to have settled out now, and these guys have calmed down and are managing to drive on. So Mr. Anthony, I know you can slide in the garage of the Type N Esports cars. Do you want to give us some information on how Mr. Greg Favell's going for fuel numbers, or are you going to try and keep that a secret for us? Because it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen here and how these boys are going to play this out with multiple cars have already done their last stop to get home. They are on fresher tyres, so they can be using that to their advantage if at all possible. And looking at the lap times, the guys down on those fresher tyres are quite considerably faster. They're almost half a second to a second faster than Greg at this stage. So if I'm a betting man, which I'm usually not, I would say that Greg will be looking to come in the pit lane soon, and hopefully his engineer is advising him very similar, because these cars that are on quicker tyres behind him, any advantage that he did have over them at the start of this stint will start to slowly be crawled in on. So big shout out to Matty Parker, saying the Nova Motorsports boys, go lads. Unfortunate not to see you out there tonight, Matty. Hope all is well, and be good to see you back on track soon in that Nova Motorsports Commodore, I believe it is. Or have you converted to the dark side and jumped into a Mustang? So Stephen Murray in the chat said probably lap 28 or thereabouts for Greg to make his pit stop. So we are getting up close towards that timing now. So we are going into lap 28. It'll be interesting to see how much fuel he has managed to save now. This is a very interesting battle with Kenneth Latta and Scott McCune right behind each other here, as Scott is going to get an incredible run coming down the main straight. And will he look at making a move down here into turn 1? He has pulled out onto the inside. So we'll see how these guys play this one out. As Scott has done an incredible job and made that move stick there with that beautiful overtake on Kenneth Latta down to turn 1. Now, this does give Kenneth Latta a bit of an opportunity here to potentially get a good run out of the second corner and chase Scott down, but it does look like Scott has managed to drive away and capitalise on that overtake. So as someone might have seen, we did see Michael Talliancic make a dive for the pit lane on that previous lap, with Michael Stewart also venturing down the lane as well. So this is where Steve was actually commenting about lap 28, 29. We'll start to see these guys come into the pit lane to do their final stop to get these cars home. And once again, I'll jump back on board with Greg. It looks like Chris Blanchard's had a bit of a moment there. He's managed to come off the track, and hopefully he has managed to get that Commodore going again. Looks fairly straight, but we might jump on a replay and see what's actually happened to Chris there, as my system is telling me that he has had a bit of an off track. So just trying to pick up where we are. We're coming out of turn 1 down into turn 2, and unfortunately Chris has decided to try and take the fast way around the corner by going very early on the apex of that corner and missing it entirely and heading out to the grass. So good job by Chris to keep that thing nice and straight and off the wall. As our statistician in Stephen Murray has said that Greg Pavel should be coming in on lap 28, 29 or thereabouts, as we do see him, Scott McCune and Kenneth Latta all dive into the lane on this lap. So as previously mentioned, John Latham, down in position number 10 at the moment in that Racecraft Simulations Commodore, is effectively the first car that can make it home on that fuel load, pitting on lap 23 of this race. So we'll keep an eye on where John is positioned at this point in time, and we might try and jump onto a pit lane camera if we can of John Latham as he comes down into the start finish straight. So John's just coming onto the main straight now with all the cars up in front all making that crucial pit stop. Greg Pavel is now on the move, so Greg has managed to maintain that race lead, including pit stop and fuel strategy, to still come out approximately 6 seconds in front of John Latham for this race lead. So Greg has managed to save that time, save those tyres and still come out in front. So that does see Peter Vedekran take over the lead of this race, and Pete, once again, I'm not sure what he's doing with this fuel tank of this Commodore, but the last pit stop that Pete did was on lap 10 of this particular race, so he is doing an incredible job with saving that fuel. I don't know where he's putting it, but he we might have to get some scrutineers out of that thing and work out what's going on. But behind Pete there, we now have Chad Viger. Also has not made a pit stop yet. The last pit stop that Chad did was on lap 14. And then just behind that is Jason Fewens from the Banner Alliance Racing boys in the 067 Commodore. He also pitted on lap 15 of this race, so these guys will have to come in and make a pit stop at this point in time. So I'll just get rid of some of these unfortunate bots that come in. So Peter Vandekran has now come into the lane, also has Jason Fewens. Chad Viger is still going around in this race, and then that brings us back to Greg Favell, who, once Chad makes his next pit stop, will be the effective leader of this race. Halil will jump on board with Chris Blanchard. He's currently down in position number 27 after having that unfortunate incident where he drove off the track. He's now currently right behind, I believe that's the 014 of Rick Viger, who is also a lap down. So Rick will have to adhere to those blue flags, which he has done now on approach into Canada Corner. Thanks boys, appreciate the wishes for today. I do apologise that I'm running solo tonight. A couple of the other boys do have commitments, so unfortunately you have to listen to my voice, but we'll endeavour to get through it as best we can. So once again we can see Chad Viger out in front of this race. Chad does have to make another pit stop to obviously make it home. He's not going to have enough fuel from here on out. Jump back on with Greg. So looking back towards Greg here, Greg has about a 7-second lead over John Latham. So Greg has plenty of time to definitely not fuel save. I'm not going to say that, because we all know Greg cannot do that and chooses not to. Likes to drive incredibly hard and incredibly fast. So moving back forward, we have John Latham in position number 2 in that Racecraft Commodore, with Michael Taliancic and a very, very aggressive Kenneth Latter there back in P number 5, as he looks to make a big move down the inside of Michael Taliancic coming down into Canada Corner, which also has now seen that Scott McCune could potentially have a run. But these two cars are going to have a fantastic battle here. Looking at it as they come up out of Canada Corner, last corner coming onto the main straight, all the way side by side. It'll be definitely a drag race up this main straight to see who's going to win it, but I think the biggest winner here is going to be Scott McCune, who will have the benefit of the draft from Kenneth Latter, as these cars, dare I say it, try and go 3 wide down into turn 1. This is absolutely incredible to watch. So hopefully someone uses some smarts, which they have. Michael Taliancic has decided to pull away out of this battle and let these two in front push on. So Kenneth Latter has managed to save that position and stay out in front of Scott, and with Michael Taliancic sitting behind. So these guys are going to have an absolute fantastic battle from here on out towards the end of this race, and I'm sure we're going to see that plenty more position changes happen from these guys, as it appears though that Scott is moved across to defend that inside line coming down into turn 5 and has successfully done so. Moving further back, we've just seen a move done by Mark Duggan on Damien Cairns for position number 7, I believe that was. Once again down into that long braking zone into turn 5, all downhill. So great drive from Mark to see him pushing very, very hard to get back up to where he was after having that that incident into turn 1 where he looks like he appeared to be overdrive the car, go off the track a little bit, and has recovered very well. Moving on further back, we're down to Michael Stewart in position number 9, who is doing a great job. He's up 5 positions from the start of this race, running the that beautiful livery, the HSR Mustang, in that alternate livery for in the blade for Balin. We'll jump back on board with our season 12 championship winner, Scott Gamble, who's trying his very best to push very, very hard and recover as many positions as he can from the start of this race. Unfortunately, it hasn't been a good night for Scott, and has just been caught up in a rather few minor incidents that have just cost him quite a bit of time. So Scott's doing a fantastic job to drive back up into position number 13 after that lap 1 incident. Jumping back.
It's Pete Baxter jumping in from race control. How are you, man?
Not too bad, buddy. How are you? Thank you for jumping in.
Oh, no worries. The guys thought you might need a little bit of company and a little bit of explanation of some of that fun that happened at the start of the race.
Yeah, definitely. I'll take any company I can get at this point in time. My voice is getting a little bit scratchy, so I appreciate you boys jumping in and having a chat. So, what actually happened in that first part of that race?
Well, classic Road America, right? So we had a bit of an incident on the first lap. A couple of cars there came together just at the start line. One of them tried to sneak under another, and probably wasn't a gap there that should have been. So a little small penalty there for car 14. And then at the restart, again, the same sort of thing, guys. The guys just tried to squeak through some gaps that probably weren't there, and with a field of 20 cars sitting behind them at race pace on the straight, it's not a good look, right? So one car sideways sort of crushes up the whole field. But Scotty Gamble sort of was a bit of a victim there, and car 999 scored the penalty. And a bit further around on that lap 13, we got down to 2 and 5, and cars 23 and 462 come together, and turned 23 around. Again, probably not the best type of racing on board, but car 462 will take 20 seconds out of that and race on. But it's good to see a clean race since then, and some of the faster guys are put back in the field. It sort of makes the race interesting till the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely right. I was trying to catch up on all the accidents that happened on that lap 1, so I appreciate you jumping in and giving me some bit of rundown on what's actually happened. And I was trying to get replays up, so I do apologise if I happen to miss one, guys. It's been one of those sort of eventful things where I'm going through between 2 computers and trying to catch up on everything. So I definitely do appreciate you jumping in to give us a bit of an explanation there. I do hate to say it, that I did mention to the boys that safety cars always breed safety cars.
It is a little like that. To be honest, one of our race controllers at the time of the first crash lost his own connection, right? So we had our own little fluffy chaos moment in race control, and I had to jump in and take over from Brenton, but he got back on by the time we'd assessed everything, and we just take back over. And the real sort of bet on is whether Mike can keep the safety car on track when he takes over from the field after letting it loose and letting the leader take care. But, look, we've got to get back onto the race now. We've got we're on lap 33. We've got about 6 laps to go. It's looking good. Some of the faster guys are deep into the field, and should be some good racing coming at the end. I think Greg looks like he's got a little bit of a gap there, but the rest of the guys, we might see a surprise winner tonight.
Yeah, definitely right. And at this point in time, as you mentioned, it's lap 33 or 39, so there's still plenty of time for this race to go through another curveball. I don't want to say it. And Greg's doing an absolute stellar job out in front there with the 7.5 second lead over John Latham, and he's just managed to drive beautifully all night with that type of esports Commodore there. Got his strategy right, and obviously has a lot fresher tyres than everybody else out there because he stopped on lap 28, and the rest of the guys all managed to stop on lap 23. So I think he's going to use advantage of those tyres and start to push on.
Yeah, and look, I guess it's up to Greg, but does he really need to drive to a fastest lap now? He could probably just drive to a lap time, manage that pace, and in 12 minutes time, do those 6 laps and, cruise across the finish line with a nice easy win, leaving it to P2, 3 and 4 to fight out the
rest of the podium.
The podium, yeah.
Look, I don't want to say it, but Greg's one of those drivers that I've had a chat to a couple of times, and he does not like saving fuel or slowing down. So, unfortunately, none of us do. As we just seen John Latham obviously have a big moment into turn 1, which now has seen him drop quite a few positions. So he was up in position number 2, and now he's dropped down to position P5. So that is very unfortunate for John. So I might jump on and see if I can get a replay of what's actually happened. But it appears as though he may have just outbroke himself into turn 1 and has jumped off the track. So we'll use the Kumho Tyres replay real quick to have a look and see what's actually happened to John as he's come down the main straight into turn number 1. As we've seen a lot of cars do this tonight. So he's just unfortunately clipped that grass on the outside there under brakes, which has caused the car to oversteer.
It's the trickiest corner, one of the trickiest corners here at Road America, and you miss that braking point by a millisecond, and you miss the apex, and you're getting out onto the curb, touch the grass, and then you're losing sort of 3 to 5 seconds, and in this case it's cost him a couple of spots. So, I think that's just a little bit of a driver's error there, and he's going to pay it from a couple of spots. But look, he's still in the race. He hasn't lost too much. Head on, eyes forward, I'd be saying, as his crew chief or his spotter, and saying, right, you still got a good finish. Crack on, man.
Exactly right. And John's one of those guys that would be absolutely spewing. He's had another major moment coming through the kink. So it looks like now John's pushing incredibly hard, and he may have just cooked those tyres up a little bit. And we've just noticed that he started to go through the kink there a little bit sideways. So hopefully John can regather his composure, cool those tyres down a bit, and manage to push on and hopefully catch these boys in front. But to the guys in front, all credit to them. Scotty McCune is having an absolute magical race up there in P3, chasing behind Kenneth Latta and Greg Pavel. In that HSR Commodore, he's kept it nice and clean, kept it straight, and stuck with these boys all night.
Yeah, they've spread out a little bit, but just enough. I think they've still got. There's a little bit of pressure there between Ken and Scott. So we'll see how they go. It's certainly an interesting race. That podium is by no means sorted.
Definitely not. And as you saw, we saw John Latham come down to turn 1, just clip that grass on the outside. And I know I've done it when I've raced these things here. You just come down there and get that braking a little bit wrong, try and push it out to get the car as wide as possible on the outside, and the next thing you know, you're just a passenger, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you touch the paint and you've almost touched the grass in these things.
Yeah, and look, it's once these things start to slide, there's no amount of pedal, there's no amount of accelerator, there's nothing you can do. You're just counter steering and hoping the car's going to straighten up.
Yeah. Oh, look. To be honest, you're talking to a split 4-style driver, so I know exactly how well these things spin and how hard they are to control. If I could control them, I'd probably be in split 2 or higher. But because I can't control them, there's no. I'm barely making split 3 at the moment. So
look, I definitely want to see you out there in whichever split you happen to qualify, because I do believe you are racing next season. I think someone's mentioned.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to give it a crack, but I'm going to. This is my first chance to give the full simulator system a crack, right? So, left foot clutching, gear changes, sequential shifter, the whole lot. I've always raced with just a steering shifter and left foot brake. So, I've been spending a lot of time just trying to learn how to drive the supercar in with all the systems running in the simulator, and it might cost me some time, but I'm prepared to do that just for the immersion factor, and I think that's part of simulation racing. So
exactly right, and that's why we do this. We spend lots of money on these sims to have them replicate in real life car as much as possible, and iRacing gives us a really nice platform to do so. There are some little quirks that they haven't quite managed to get out of these cars yet, but no simulation software is going to be absolutely perfect, is it?
I don't think so. I think, some of the weaknesses is probably the iRacing physics model when cars contact, but you got to be a real sort of technician to think through it mathematically. Otherwise, it's the same for everyone. Just drive on, right? Drive on, give every other car a little bit of space, make it clean. If you lose a spot, you lose a spot. If you want to contact, the potential is you're going to lose 10 spot. It's up to you how hard you race. If you want to be super competitive and go for it, you go for it.
Yeah, definitely right. I think that's what makes this so fun is the races that we do and the endurance races that we do, because there's other races in the system where you can do a 24-hour endurance race. And I've done
Oh,
quite
and
a
look,
few of those myself, and they are a lot of
yeah.
fun. They're a wave of emotions, but they are an incredible amount of fun.
Well, that's been my forte in iRacing since I joined. Right, I've got a team of dudes in the US that I race with, and it's been the GT3 and LMP2, and we've been doing 24 and 12-hour races, and then the Nürburgring 24, and they're cars with all those little bits of assistance. As someone will say, it's not a brick on an ice rink like the supercar. So, again, it's another level to learn how to drive these things, which makes these guys that are racing tonight, and the times they're doing is just magnificent, man. I was doing some practice this afternoon. Best time I could get into a low 8, and I'm thinking, oh God, I still got a long way to go to learn how to drive these properly. And to see these guys running around, and what Greg Favel's knocking down high fours, and the guys looking for the podium are knocking over high fives consistently in the race. I'm just like, oh wow, man, these guys know what they're doing in these cars. They know how to keep them within the grip window. They know how to race them fast. They know how to take the apexes. And not only that, they can stay on the track and not take each other off, which is why they're on the podium, right?
Exactly right. And look, these guys, it's an incredible series. Every one of these drivers is over 40 in this series, and they're having an incredible run at the moment.
Well,
I do want to have a quick flick through. I have noticed that there is no Jamie McKnight out there tonight.
no noticeable omission for the guy that does all the setups. So a couple of laps to go. We've still got Greg out the front there with a real nice, comfortable lead, and Ken and Scott are still fighting really closely there for the podium. I just wonder whether Scott's going to have a crack. He's probably only got, this corner coming up, turn 5, and Canada corner to really have a dive in the next 2 laps. Use a bit of draft. Here he goes. Here he's having a bit of a look with a bit of protection there from Ken. So it's good race.
At this point in time, what do you think Scott's strategy would be? Do you reckon he waits a couple of laps to make that move, or do you reckon he has a go now and try and start to push away? Because that draft around here is absolutely crucial.
His 2 big chances, I think, are the draft on the front straight and the draft between 3 and 5. And I think if anything, if he's waiting for a last lap go, he's been using the last sort of 5 laps to assess that on Ken and to see how close he can get. But I think he's probably starting to realise that Ken's he's got the goods there coming out of the corner, and if Scott can't come out of the corner as good as Ken, I think he might just have to take the podium. But look, the way he's driving, he's a racer, man. I don't think he's going to settle for that. I've never seen anyone in iRacing going for a podium and in a league like this, in a split one, that settles for anything. So, let him go. Let him go. This is a classic.
Yeah, definitely right. We saw these guys battling really hard before. So Michael Taliantich, John Latham, Scott McCune, and Ken Latta were all right on the tail of each other, and neither of them wanted to give up. And I believe at one point they were going 3 wide into turn 1, and even 2 wide around here is an incredible ask. And trying to go 3 wide just because the main straight allows these cars to do it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do.
Certainly not Road America. It's the hardest track in the world to get a field round turn 1, 2 without a crash. But it looks like Ken's just got a good break there on what looks like to be not yet the white flag. 2 more to go.
We've got 2 more to go.
So he's just taken those apexes just a little bit better there than Scotty, so he might be able to hold him off.
I've just jumped back in the field as we see Damien Cairns and Mark Duggan. Another one of these guys. Mark was having an incredible run and then had a minor mishap in turn 1, which has cost him potentially a podium, because I think at that point in time he was in P2, and he's done what a lot of cars have done tonight, and they've clipped that grass, and he's had a bit of a slide but hasn't managed to catch it like the other boys have, and has ended up pretty much going around and has had to drive incredibly difficult with Damien Cairns right on his tail the entire time. So incredible amounts of pressure being put on these 2 cars.
Yeah, I got to tell you, sometimes I think it's more comfortable to be the car behind putting the pressure on than the car in front taking the pressure. You can just focus on your gap to the car in front and just say, oh, I'm going to get really, really close. And you know that the driver in front of you is just looking in the mirror going, oh, which way is he going? Which way is he going? second guess it. You could just put pressure on lap after lap, but it is getting close, so they're going to have to make a move.
Yeah, definitely right. We are coming in that last critical run to here. So Scott McCune is chasing down Ken Latta. The gap was to about 6 tenths for the lap, and he has managed to draw it back into about 3.5 tenths on this lap. So there is plenty of time now with the white flag about to come out and lots of drafting, with Scott being potentially able to have a crack here. But I think at this point in time, I reckon Scott's going to be very, very happy with a P3.
Yeah, well, let's see how they come out of 14. Ken comes out of here well. I think he's good, and then he has to come out of turn 3 really well, and then he should be pretty good for a second.
Yeah, we just noticed that Ken did actually have a bit of a slide there, and looking at my timing tower here, Scott McCune is chasing him down at an incredible rate of knots, and Ken has moved across to defend really hard here. Now, we'll be interested to see how these guys go on coming out of here and see who comes out better out of turn 3.
Absolutely, you've got to set him up for turn 5. Not this one. You've got to just set him up to come out quickly. Get that draft again. Oh, he might have just dropped the apex a little bit off that turn, but get that draft again and have a crack at him at turn 5. If not, he's got to come out of the circle and really have a crack at Ken on the corner. But here he goes. He's having a look. Nope.
No, these guys are having an incredible battle here. No one's given an inch, are they?
No, not at all. Nor should they, right? So, I mean, you're talking about the last lap and you're getting a podium in a split one. So, yeah, there's nothing there to give away.
And then right behind that, you've got John Latham and Michael Taliancic battling also incredibly hard for those P4 and 5 here. So, these guys are actually in a good position here. You don't want Scott McCune and Kenneth Latta to push too hard, because they could come together, and next thing you know, John Latham and Michael Taliancic could see them coming through and nabbing those positions on the podium.
That's where your race brain comes into it, right? Do I settle for third and get us both over the line, P2 and 3, or do I have a crack and risk us getting down to 6, 7 and letting 2 other dudes come through for the podium? So, yeah, that's got to be on Scotty McCune's mind. And for Kenny, he's just got to go for it, I think, and he might be safe. He's got a nice little break here in the Canada corner. I think he should be good now from here. I don't think Scotty will be able to get him out of any of the apexes and onto the straight. So I think he just got away from him in that lap, just enough in that back half lap to secure second there.
So you might jump back on board now. These boys are filtering through. As Scott might get a good run. No, unfortunately, Scott's put the power down too early, and he's come in for an early apex, and Ken went for the late apex and come off the corner nice and well, which has secured that P2. Well done to Greg Favell, obviously, for winning the race. Kenny Latta for holding second over those last 8 laps. That was an awesome race there, and Scotty McKill for putting the pressure on. And frankly, you come off these races and I just put a pressure on a dude for like 8 laps straight and made it really hard for him. That's almost a pat on your own back, right? So yeah, definitely right. And that's absolutely a phenomenal drive by Greg Favell and Kenny Latta. And Scott McCune rounding out our podium there. That's then moving back further, we see Michael Taliancic in P4 and John Latham rounding out our position number 5. So what we might do is we might take a quick break. I'll run a small ad while these boys are finishing up, and then we'll get to the results and start dragging them in as they all pile up and start to do interesting things out of coming out of turn 1 there.
Sounds good.
The ever-changing weather around the world. Ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully these guys have had a chance to cool down, have a drink, go to the bathroom. They'll start to jump into the green room shortly, but in the meantime we might start going through the race results for round 11 of your Split 1 V8 veterans here at Road America. So finishing in position number 1 we have Greg Pavel from Tyre Esports. Then in position number 2, Kenneth Ladder from Synergy Sim Racing, and I might have to get onto him that because it says privateer, so he's from my team. I might have to call him out on that. Then,
you have to, mate. Keep him honest, yeah, for sure.
Down in P3, we've got Scotty McCune from Hypersonic Racing. He'll be incredibly happy with that result. I think it's the first podium he's had, so we'll get to chat to him shortly. Position number 4, we see Michael Taliancic and John Latham, and I believe those guys must have swapped in the last coming up on the main straight. So hopefully John hasn't run out of fuel at that point in time and has caused himself to end up short and got pipped on the line, so we'll have to go back and look at that at some point and see what happened. Then in P6 we've got Mark Duggan from Nova Motorsports, followed by Damien Cairns from Tyre Esports in position number 7. Michael Stewart in P8 from Hypersonic Racing. Position 9 sees Jeff Thomas from JWM East Motorsports, and then rounding out our top 10 is Travis Hunt from Team Scorpion. Moving on down to position number 11, we've got Darren Crosby from M1 Racing. P12 sees Scotty Gamble after being involved in that earlier on incident, which is you never want to see it, but he's done an incredible job to catch back up and get that car back up into where it is. So that is fantastic of Scott there.
Look, you wouldn't believe it, Cameron. You hit the nail on the head, mate. John Latham did run out of fuel. That's what it looks like on the way up.
Oh, no, that's
like Talianci got him in the last 100 metres. Yeah, it's got to be horrifying, right, to hold off someone like that for so long, and then either run out of fuel or maybe something happened to the car. Who knows? But yeah, it was he had it out of the apex and he's just slowed down. So
that's very unfortunate for John. Down in P13 sees Dan Hall, also from Evolution Racing Team, so we're going to have to chat to Scott and get him to put on the right team name there. Marty Hansen from Type N Esports. I'll get Ben Anthony onto that. Greg Sharp in position 15 from Coda Sim Sports. Tim Nicol in P16. Peter Vanderkraan down in position number 17. Chad Viger finishing up in position number 18 after all those incidents that happened. Down in 19 we see Dean Flavel. Position 20 sees David Kirby from Fishy Motorsports. Darren Goosey in 21 from Old Mate & Sons. Jason Fewens from Banner Alliance Racing in position number 22 after doing his pre-race ritual of burnouts in the pit box. Position number 23 sees Chad Lewis from ERT, followed by number 24 sees Michael Quain from Old Mate & Sons. P25 is Christopher Blanchard from WKMP Sim Sports. Down in position 26 we see Troy Sipple from Pecky Performance Racing. 27 Michael Schroeder from Old Mate & Sons. 28 then sees Matt Vanderkraan from Angry Birds Racing. Moving down further, 29 sees Jason Spriggs from Type N Esports. Then we drop down to Rick Viger, Anthony Visma, Adam Simpson, Christian Smart, Stuart Hall, Stephen Kennedy are all drivers that appear to have either been a couple of laps down or parked the car early on. So what we might do is we might get rid of this information screen and start dragging these boys in. I think they're all down in the green room, so we'll start dragging them up and we'll begin to have a chat to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
welcome, gentlemen. Congratulations, Greg, on your absolutely stellar drive.
thanks, mate.
How was it there going for the towards the end?
Oh, I had the gap, so it was pretty good actually. I could just back it off a little bit and take it easy, save the tyres. I really had to look after the tyres on this setup, so yeah, it worked out perfect in the end.
Look, that's exactly what it was. I was a little bit worried there when I was watching there for a little bit. I noticed whether you're going to give the gap up or whether you're going to manage to keep it going, because based on what I could see was that you started to give up time. So I saw the guys on quicker tyres, which like John Latham and those boys that stopped a little bit later than you, were gaining on you about a second a lap. Were you ever worried?
No, I was just watching the gap and then just maintained it however I had to. So I don't think the gap changed that much, especially in the last 6-7 laps. So yeah, I was just keeping an eye on the gap, and then if I had to push a bit, I'd push a bit. But yeah, I was mostly able to just take it pretty easy for that last stint.
And look, that's exactly what it looked like. And I had Pete from Race Control in with me for the last probably 10 or so laps, which helped me out incredibly because my voice was starting to get sore. And
Yeah.
it's exactly what it looked like with you guys. You guys were battling incredibly hard. Sorry, the boys behind you were battling incredibly hard, and your gap was just slowly getting that little bit further away.
Yeah, I could see them on the relative, like the times they're all together, and like I was just saying, they looked like they were 3 wide, which they were apparently. So yeah, that sort of helped get a bit of that gap, and that be able to just take it easy on the tyres for that last stint.
Oh, they were definitely 3 wide.
Yeah.
I guess the thing is, Greg, I think Cameron's probably learned something new tonight because he did make the remark to me that you're not the type of bloke who slows down and manages gaps. So, we were watching your 8-second gap for those last 10 laps, and
I was thinking that with a couple of laps to go, and I was quite proud of myself because normally I just push and like I'll let's really break their back and see what sort of gap we can get. But I thought, no, take it easy.
So you made a liar of me.
Yeah, well, that's maybe downfall in the past. I think I just pushed until the very end, but yeah, I thought no, we'll try a different route this week and maintain the gap and keep it a 0 incident. So
that'd be the difference between a race driver and a fast driver, wouldn't it?
No, that's it. I really need the bonus points this week, so I had to take it easy and try and get them.
No, that's an incredible drive, Greg. Well done, mate.
Thanks.
Kenny, great congratulations on position number 2 there.
Yeah, cheers for that. Good to be back up here again.
Yeah, look, it wasn't easy. We watched the last 10 laps and we kept switching between yourself and Michael Talanchant and John Latham behind you, but you and Scotty were having an absolute epic battle there for the last 10 laps.
Yeah, it was certainly keeping me honest, and if I make one little mistake, he's on me. I'm thinking, oh no. I thought he was going to get me a couple of times, but no, he drove extremely well, as I thought. So
there was a few times that there was a couple of big runs that Scotty got on you and showed the nose, and you sort of shut that door pretty quickly. So you're going to make him work for it.
Yeah, well, I made a couple of mistakes in the final stint. I was nearly going to get away from him, and then I made a mistake, and then he'd come back on me again, and he'd be all over, and I'd not really necessarily close the door, but just to sort of let him know. And goes, no, not yet.
Yeah, no, look, it was incredibly to watch, and look, you guys did an absolute fantastic job there, battling on nice and close. It made some good coverage for us for the last bit of that race, and then, as I mentioned, John Latham and Michael Talanchant behind you were doing the same. They were swapping positions left, right, and centre as well. So you guys didn't hold anything back for that last stint.
Yeah, well, I made a mistake at the end of the second last stint, and I nearly put the thing into the wall, and then we both sort of pitted basically the next lap after that, and I was behind Scotty then, and it really just brought everything really close for that final stint for the 4 of us.
Yeah, definitely right. And how did you find the setup this week?
The setup was pretty good, I thought. Well, like Greg said, you had to really look after the tyres. It took a bit to get used to the brakes and get them where I felt I needed them, and that was probably the biggest challenge I had this week.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things.
I've got a question for you, Kenny. Was there ever a moment in those last 6 laps where you thought Scott had you? And Scott, I'm going to ask you the same question. Was there ever a moment in the last 6 laps where you thought you had Kenny when we get to you? So, over to you, Ken.
Probably down the bottom of the hill when I locked that brake and went wide. But unfortunately enough, he kind of went with me.
Yeah, fair enough.
Exactly the same. I thought, here it is. He's locked it up, and I pinched the brake myself and just went, oh no, we're connected by a tow rope.
That was fabulous racing, guys. Absolutely awesome racing to watch. It was really good watching. I think, Scotty, we're watching you, and I was saying to Cameron, I think what he's doing is he's just putting pressure on, staying as close as he can for a few laps, working out where he might have an opportunity, working out where he might get some draft, where he might have a dip. Yeah, you did have a couple of chances to have a dip, but Ken defended you, mostly on that sort of front straight, and there's not a lot of spots to overtake here, but the ones that you did have a crack on, it was just that sort of previous apex where you probably weren't sort of just right enough to come out and have a crack, and it's just awesome racing, guys. Excellent to watch. Well done.
Yeah, and this brake setup too, you had to go a fairway front, and it was a knife edge. It was like a millimetre too hard on the brakes and you were just locked up and straight ahead. So I was conscious, not if I was going to have a dive, I wanted to know I'd pull it up, but I just couldn't get close enough to do it without the risk of just shooting straight off into the wall. So I figured third's better than 30th.
Yeah, definitely right. And I want to say big congratulations to you, Scott, for being up on the podium in P3 there. Is this your first podium in Vets?
I think it is, Cameron. I'm pretty sure it is in the God knows how many races. I've got to be over the 100, but yeah, no, I think it's my first podium, and that was an epic battle with Kenny there. We drove. I think we drove really respectfully, like we were 2 and 3 wide through corner after corner at one stage, and I don't think we even touched. So, man, kudos to Ken, and yeah, he kept me out, and like I said, or like you said, where I thought I could have a little dive, it just wasn't there without throwing the race away effectively.
Yeah, look, definitely. And I've been watching you all the way through the race. So you started in P3 and you finished in P3. So that's incredible around this track. I've got to say, this is one of those ones that Peter and I were talking about it. That one wrong move here, and as soon as you hit that grass, it's like on ice,
Yep.
and you can never recover it. And we saw that with John Latham. He was up in P2, I believe, at one point. And then all he had was that minor incident coming into turn 1. And
I think he
straight
scared
away,
the hell out of Ken and I when he was coming back on. We both looked and gone, oh no.
I think he scared the hell out of the race controllers too, because we saw that.
Yeah, I think I managed to catch that when I was watching him too. So I think I may have put a little bit of commentator's curse on him. And
Good on you, thank you.
Don't want to do it, but I think I may have caught him out off guard there just a little bit.
But you're right, like I dropped left rear into the last corner on one of the laps, and I thought, I'm going for all money here, and I don't know how it pulled up. But yeah, that was my closest to going well off. So yeah, slippery if you hit the grass.
Absolutely stellar drive, guys, and congratulations. You got any more questions for the boys, Pete?
No, should the boys want to do a bit of a shout out for whoever sponsors? And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, make that happen. It'd be all good. But congratulations, lads. Awesome race to be a part of.
Thanks,
Thanks,
mate.
mate.
Get us up to Greg. So, Greg, do you want to start with your sponsors?
Yeah, yep. Well done, Ken and Scott on the podium. Thanks to all race control and everyone behind the scenes, like yourself, Cameron, V8 Veterans, and for doing the stream for us tonight. And Taipan Esports, Blacktown Mazda, Blacktown City HWM Havau, Too Easy Finance, Sim Rigs, Sideways Photography, and GMK Logistics.
No worries, boys. On to you,
Sounds
Kenny.
good.
Oh, of course. Thanks to well done, Greg and Scott. Massive, really massive and awesome race. And thanks to the guy at SSR. Bunch of great. I can't even speak. And of course, and thanks to Race Control and the broadcast, you guys, of course. Wave Runner Performance, Smith & Son Renovations, DR Epoxy, DGG Customs, DM Sim Photography, Aussie Mechanical Repairs, JK Signs, Aftershock, West End Mazda, and Too Easy Finance. Thank you.
I seem to think that list gets longer and longer every week.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But no, thanks for that, mate.
I'm starting to think we're going to need some sponsors because mine's going to be short and sweet. It's the boys at HSR. Stewie ran a good race. I think he started 16th or 17th, and I think got back to 5th. Did he?
He finished up in P8. So he started,
P8, okay.
Yeah, so he started up in 14th and has managed to get up 6 spots into P8.
Okay, so he had an awesome drive too, and it was, we're chatting, and then basically Mario and Jason split 2. Don't know how they go. So yeah, also and just thanks to Race Control for putting up with us, and also you guys, Cameron and Peter, for the putting the broadcast on, mate, because I think after we race, I think most people look forward to having a watch of the broadcast, and it just makes the whole series a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, look, I will apologise. For a lot of the race, my voice was getting scratchy because I was on my own, and Pete jumped in for the last probably 10 to 12 laps, so he took a little bit out of my voice for me, so I do appreciate that. And a lot of the boys do get in there during the week and jump on board and watch it, and I do get a few messages during the week saying, I made a mistake here or made a mistake there, but that's all fun. The boys are just having a laugh.
There's nothing. There's no commentator mistake that can be the same as a race controller's mistake, right?
Look, that's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. But the luxury we have in here is we don't get held accountable for it. We can we can throw it out there, but it's up to you guys to make the calls on the day, and you guys do an incredible job, honestly.
What are you insinuating? Someone argues with race control?
That wouldn't happen, Scotty. Would never happen.
No,
Never in my
no.
life. Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen at all. And
Thank you guys.
just a couple of stats for you, Scotty. I think it's your second podium. So Ben has mentioned that you got a P3 in Season 7 at Le Mans.
Oh, well, there you go. It's my second one.
So this is your second podium, and now he's trying to bring up my incident in the safety car, which we're not going to talk about. We're going to leave that one alone.
Classic.
So
Oh, well.
we're never going back to Sebring again, and I'm never either broadcasting or doing any sort of safety car duties for that.
I'll tell you what, Cam, I'll come and help you, right? I'm fairly safe here, right? This is my third week, so there's not a lot of dirt on me yet. So.
Look, there's plenty of dirt on me, and I'm sure the boys love hanging it on me every now and then.
Oh, you can have some fun, do you?
You definitely do. Like that's the name of this league, and these guys have an absolute brilliant camaraderie. Like these guys can race as hard as they want, have major incidents during the night on Thursday nights, but then by Friday morning, everyone's put it to bed, and everyone gets on.
Maybe
with it.
by Saturday or Sunday,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, I was trying to give you guys some credit here. Like
Yeah, maybe the next season.
speaking of the next season, we are rolling into season 14 with our last round next week. So registration and entries will open very shortly for season 14. I believe we're still going in through discussions on what the format is going to be and how the qualifying and pre-qualifying is going to work. So if anyone is out there going to look at joining up, just check out the Facebook page and also the V8 Veterans Discord when the links all go live.
I vote 10 rounds at Road America, please.
Of course you do. Like, but,
Hey, you blokes have got to be able to race 10 metres at Road America without a crash, right? So,
Yeah, right.
I think it all went on behind us, didn't it? I can't wait to watch the broadcast back, to be honest.
have a look at it. Yep.
it was very interesting to see. So, all right, gents, what I'll do is I'll drag you boys back out.
Thank you, guys.
I'll finish up the stream for the evening, and I'll come and have a chat to you shortly.
Congrats,
Thanks,
Greg, too.
Thanks, mate.
All right, Pete, any final words before we close this up for the evening?
No, I'd just like to thank my wife for letting me have a simulator. That's it.
Look, isn't that the old saying? Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. No, look, it's a nice break from race control. I might come and join you next week instead of staying down in that folder, right? So.
Definitely. Yeah. Anyway, you're always welcome to come up and have a chat to me. Speaking of my partner, she's currently laying on the floor beside me on a beanbag.
Relaxed.
Yeah, she's gracefully let me come and do this tonight, being my birthday. So they've absolutely spoiled me rotten today. So.
Oh, Cam, happy birthday, man. The last
Thanks,
thing you
buddy.
need to be doing is working. You need to go off and pop a few beers or have whatever it is you want to enjoy the rest of the night with. So.
Look, I've been spoiled all day by the kids and the missus. They've made me breakfast this morning and then dinner tonight. And
Well, enjoy it and soak it up while you can. Because
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
what? We only have one of those every year. So.
definitely right.
Good on you, mate.
I've only got 5 years to go before I can join these boys in here. So.
Oh, you're a young pup. Right, okay.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I will round out the evening here. Big shout out to Pete for jumping on board. Congratulations to our podium, Greg Cravell, Kenneth Latter and Scott McCune. Until next time, have a great week and we'll see you shortly.
The ever-changing weather around the world. Ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tyre that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tyre.